Okay, everybody, come on in. Happy Friday. We'd love to welcome you all back to another episode of the Wives Club. We are so happy to have you here with us. And again, our special guest, Luke Hazley, is in the house. You all know her and you all love her. We're so happy that she's with us. Our dear AV was unable to attend tonight, but she sends her best and we are going to continue as per usual. So I'll start by introducing myself, telling anybody who's new here the history of the Wives Club. We'll do introductions and then we will get started. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I am Maggie, a former wife of 10 years. In 2021, I met with the late great Kevin Samuels. And I booked a session with him because I always felt convicted whenever he would say, where are the older women to teach the young? So I wanted to create a community of like minded and marriage minded women. And we started just in the Patreon. I'm so grateful. Not only did he give us his blessing, Kevin actually came up with the name The Wives Club. So even though he is gone, his message still lives on, and we are here to continue the work. So it started with me, and then AV joined us in the Wives Club, and then after AV, Lisa joined us. Lisa, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I am Lisa. I am a current wife of 17 years. I was a big fan of Kevin. I was part of his Patreon. I was on a few of his shows. And I'm here to keep doing the good work. And I'm also a wife of a Henry, and I'm always supporting our blue collar guys. So, other than that, I'm just back for another wonderful Friday to share with all of you.
Fantastic. And then after Lisa joined us, Hermisha joined us in the Wives Club. Hermisha, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. And I am Hermisha. I represent as a former wife and just excited to be here again, week after week, giving back. We hope you ladies are enjoying this and happy to get into the topic today.
All right, and our special guest needs no introduction. If you've ever heard any Kevin Samuels episode, you heard him say, ain't that right, Luke Hazley? But Lucy, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lucy. You know me by Luke Casely through Kevin Samuels. And I didn't get a chance to meet with him in person, but we did have a lot of back and forth as a moderator in his show. And sometimes he would say, ain't that right, Luke Casey? I remember. And that was an amazing man, amazing content that he used to provide. And I was a wife for 11 years, and now I'm a new current wife for 15 years. So I think I have quite a bit of years understanding what it takes to be a wife and to take on the responsibility of being a housewife and maybe a guide for the younger generation.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. You can sit back and relax. If you're new here, we have an agenda. The agenda is in the description. We always reference Kevin's content as our lesson plan. That's what we've done going on 3 years now since 2021. And it started with just us because we wanted to give back and improve our outcomes at the same time. So you are welcome here in the Wives Club. I firmly believe if you are formerly married, currently married, or want to be married, as long as you have a marriage mindset, you are included in the Wives Club. So this week, the episode that we are discussing was one of the Godfather's greats. They were all great. This one is Are Modern Women Wife Ready? And so every week we will show you all we will tell you all the clip that we're going to be reviewing, and then we discuss it from our own perspective and life experience. We do have an agenda, and we'll go through the agenda and let everybody share, and then we will bring up your questions. And if anybody wants to come on up and talk to us after we get done, you're more than welcome to. So sit back and relax. Yes, I'm going to start us off. All right, let's get right to it. Thank you so much, Rodney. So, when I watched this episode, first of all, Kevin looked very dapper. This is one of the ones he always was dressed up, but I don't know if it was a special occasion. He had that like red or burgundy velvet like tuxedo on with the black collar. And Okay, this is not part of the episode. How about I need to mute myself? Remember that one? Unmute yourself. Okay, but it just takes me back to a time when gentlemen were gentlemen and ladies were ladies. If you know anything about me, I pine for that era. But anyway, let us begin. So, the first item on our agenda, the first question is, what are the ways that modern women can be wife ready? All right. So, I'm going to answer this from my perspective. And that modern woman title that Kevin used often and often, over and over, can be quite triggering. And I remember, I don't know if it was this episode or another episode, where a woman called in and she was like, "What do you mean by modern woman? How do you define that?" He was like, "Here we go." And it was basically, I think he said, any woman born after 1965. Ladies, whether we realize it or not, what's normal to us in this day and age is very different from the way things used to be. And some of you all may say, well, that's right, the social norms have changed. But ultimately, men are still men at their core, and women are still women at our core. So if we want to be together, and Kevin always used to say, we're better together, we're here to help you and us prepare for that, because you've never arrived. So when I look at this and I wonder, how can modern women be wife ready? The first thing for me is we need to admit that the current society that we live in does not promote the wife role. It's definitely there, but I raise my hand to say, I've been corporate since college. The society that we live in now, because we're a consumer culture, we are driven to produce more and more and more. And I got caught up in that. I married my college boyfriend, met him at 18. I was married at 25 for 10 years, and I loved being married and would absolutely marry again. But I got caught up in that breadwinner role and going for the promotion and the advanced degrees, and all of those things were great in the moment, but it's not conducive to a relationship. So unfortunately, it ended in divorce. And since then, I've been in another long term with a very traditional man, and I've had to get on the program. I've never been happier, but it is work. So we have to realize that we have work to do. The second thing that I will say in the ways that modern women can be wife ready, if you didn't have it growing up, you are going to have to seek it out. That's one of the things that Kevin was very strong about. He started by admonishing the men, no excuses, right? Once you become 18, if you didn't get that example, you have to find mentors, you have to hire a coach, you have to take courses, you have to invest in yourself. The same thing applies to us, ladies. I know for me, I come from a traditional immigrant family, and so I had that example and I strayed, and now I'm back. But even still, I continue to do the work, and that's why we are here. So those would be my first two things. Admit that we didn't just wake up like this. We got a lot of work to do. And two, seek it out if you haven't gotten that example through your upbringing. All right, so next, I'm going to come to you, Lisa. What are the ways that modern women can be wife ready?
I think one of the main ways that you can be um, wife ready, if you consider yourself a modern woman or have modern woman tendencies, is to do some of the things Kevin said, and he was big on last year, 2022. He was like, "Are you self-aware? Are you self-aware that this is an issue for you, or this is something you're lacking that you don't have? Self-awareness that I need to go out and get these get this information, or work on this." So I think that's big, self-awareness. And another thing he would talk about is, well, let me stay on self-awareness. For self-awareness, things like, I know we talked about this a lot, is being part of being self-aware is looking at the things you can try to fix yourself, go out and find other married women or women like the circle we're part of, who can give you advice and help you along with that. Another way is, like we've talked about a lot, is our wife resumes, working on your wife resume, researching on what a wife resume is and what should be on it. And like, because with the wife resume, a lot of people talk about how when you go on a date or when you're meeting these gentlemen, you can point out instead of talking about your career or your job or all those things, you can talk about the highlights of your wife resume and getting that in order. So for me, those are two main things that he focused on really last year a lot. The whole self-awareness, knowing that this is an issue for you, knowing that if you don't like listening to men talk to you a certain way or make you feel a certain way when they talk to you, saying, let me step back and get someone else's perspective on it, maybe some kind of therapy or talking to someone who could probably give you feedback. And that's something I love. I love getting feedback about things that I have issues with. So for me, if this were me, then I'd say, I know a lot of modern women don't like the way men talk to them. Even myself, my dad is loud and he's right to the point, and he just tell you how it is. But I'm so used to it growing up with that. But I would say even with my husband, I had to get used to the way he talks because he's from up north and they talk a little different. And so the way my dad talks rough is different. But either way, just knowing that you're self-aware of, some of the issues. And I think a lot of the issues showed up in the show, like the ladies being combative with him. And so if you see yourself in those ladies being combative with him, the way they would not answer the question or go around the question, he's like, this is what I'm talking about. I think we had so many great examples. Two young ladies first came on and they were just so rude with him at first for no reason. So if these are things that are issues, I would say self-awareness and getting your wife resume together are two ways that you can get wife ready. If you have the modern women mindset and you're trying to get rid of it, or if you have modern women tendencies. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, Hermisha, I am going to come to you with your big, beautiful smile that they love here. The question is, what are the ways that modern women can be wife ready?
Oh, I enjoyed this stream, and I miss Kevin so much. He was so dapper in this episode. The biggest thing that's sticking out to me is the mindset piece, the perspective. And I would say, as a former wife, I would start with, we need to value being a wife. There's been little value in women that value being a wife nowadays. I think he even talked about this, that a lot of women would have preferred to be mothers first before they were married. They would prefer to have children outside of marriage, which leads to the epidemic of single motherhood in our community. So I would say, how can you sort of start with being wife ready? You have to see the value of being a wife, period, and being a wife right now. It says, we know the passage, who can find an excellent wife or a virtuous wife? For her price is far more than rubies. She's very valuable. And I think if we start there with valuing the office of a wife, then we can have the discussion on, if I have that value in my heart, then how do I embody that now? How do I begin to show up like that? And we talk about femininity here often, and I talk a lot about how it's a heart posture. So it starts with valuing wifehood, and then how can I, what does she look like on a day-to-day? Well, she's a helper. She's a server. She know how to cook. She know how to keep a home, right? And if you don't know how to do those things, then this is why we're here. We got Maggie. Maggie cooks every day, streaming. You have examples. Lucy.
Uh-oh, looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we will come back to Hermisha. I will drop her down so she can get that together and be right back. We are going to come over to Lucy. I see you all in the chat. Keep it coming. We love the engagement. Lucy, it's your turn. What are the ways that modern women can be wife ready?
I loved how Hermisha froze. Her face looked just perfect for a freeze frame. I think that she was getting to something that I wrote in my notes here, and it's having that heart of service. If you're willing to be able to service your children, your husband, your family members at work, I think that makes you a more um, welcoming heart. Also, admit that it's okay that men and women are different, that men are more logical, more straightforward. They're going to communicate a little different than when you communicate with women. We women are a little more gentle. It takes us a little longer to express what we want to do, whereas men, they are to the point, get it done. I don't need that fluff. And it's okay to have those two different ways of communication. That's why we are complementary to each other. So I think just being able to welcome the differences and appreciate the differences and have that heart of servitude.
I love that. Well, Hermisha, I am going to come back to you because Erin Laura said, uh-oh, she was on a roll. And Quiet Storm said the internet was hating on you right now. So please, finish your point. You were talking about a wife being a server.
Yes, I don't even know where I cut off because I was just going and I was like, wait, what happened? But I was essentially saying, you all, that embodying the spirit of a wifehood and valuing that, and what that could look like is being a server, being a helper, being able to cook. And if you don't know how to do that, we have great examples on this panel. I said Maggie cooks every day. Lisa, Lou, myself, I just made some gumbo last week. You know, being able to nurture the attributes of a wife. And if you don't know where to start, we're here. This is why we exist. But then also looking to the women around you, the older women, women who are wives that you respect, that you look up to. So the main point, again, I was just making that in order for us to flesh out what it looks like to be a wife, we have to begin to just value it. We need to bring the value of being a wife rather than the value of being a single mother.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Hermisha. All right, y'all, we're going to go in for question number 2 and take another lap around. I highly recommend that you all watch and rewatch these Kevin episodes. His message still lives on, and we definitely are here to do the work. So, the second question on our agenda is: should men date women on the potential of being a wife with no experience? Interesting question. I'd love to know what you all think in the chat. I'm going to give this one uh, my best, and then we'll see what the other ladies have to say. To answer this, I'm going to say yes, but no, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Now, the question is: should men date women with no wife experience but on their potential? Date, yes. Should men marry women with no wife experience but their potential? Maybe. You're getting married for the first time. What am I actually saying here? Ladies, Kevin said this all the time. And one of the reasons why I booked that session with him and I wanted to talk to him is because I was confused. Anytime women would call in and they'd say, okay, I want to be married, I want to have a family, I want all of these things. What is the one question that Kevin would ask them? Are you a wife? I used to think, why is he asking them that? Of course, they're not wives. That's why they're calling you. They want to become wives. And what I realized is that what he's asking is, are you moving like a wife now so that you can be found by a man who has a husband mindset? I think a lot of times women think, or we've heard them say on his show and other shows, I'll get on the program when. I will submit when. I'll fall under your leadership when. And we've talked ad nauseum on this panel about how you can be overlooked because the men are always watching and your behavior may disqualify you when you thought it was going to begin after you get the ring and the date. So that's a huge change in mindset, I would argue, that modern women need to really wrap their arms around. So, should a man date a woman on the potential of being a wife with no experience? So, yes to the potential, but no if no experience. And what do I mean by that? If she has never been married, which is a good thing, maybe, is she acting in a way that if you married her tomorrow, she could fall under your program, because all men have a program. Believe it or not, ladies, you're signing up for something, so choose very wisely. Can she be the support system that you need? The man sets the cadence of the relationship, and then we as women either accept or we decline, but we can't change him. So know the type of wife that you want to be. Know the type of husband that complements that type of wife, and start moving that way immediately. Kevin often used to talk about it. At home, do you serve? When's the last time you gave a gift? Do you say yes or do you argue? These are the things, little things, but things that you can practice. So my little chopped up way of saying, yeah, you can marry her on some potential, but ladies, remember, this is a huge investment for a man and you as well. So I would advise that we choose very wisely. All right, Lisa, I'm going to come to you. The question is, should men date women on the potential of being a wife with no experience?
Yes, I think they can and should. Um, but it's up to the man, of course. And I would say maybe he's giving her a little bit of grace. But the way I took this question too, or when I presented this question, I was like, well, I started looking at the question. I was like, well, women kind of do the same thing. We kind of cast off a guy or just say no about a guy because he doesn't have all this that they're looking for, like a house and this great job and stuff. But I guess what this question kind of sounded more like to me, or I took it as after I looked into it more, is I do think men should date women based on their potential. I wouldn't say no, but um, when I look at the potential of men, I think women cast them off. And when I asked my mom about this, she told me something I really hadn't thought of it like this. She was like, and it's also something Kevin said, we inspire men. So like, my mom was talking about when she met my dad, they didn't have a lot, but they were married young and they just started off. But he was doing all kind of things. And the more my mom inspired him to do more, to want to join the military or whatever, to want to take on these courses. And because he wanted to provide her with more. So the more he inspired her, as he got more children, he was more inspired to have more. He had one daughter, and another daughter, and another daughter, and a son. So it's like we are their muse. We inspire them to do these great things. So the way my mom put it, I was like, I get it. Because even when I look at my own husband, when I met him, he was living in an apartment with another roommate, and I was like, wow, this is how y'all live. But once I started to encourage him to do things to bring stuff in the home, and he was trying to make things nice for me. And then when we became engaged and stuff, and as we moved on, the more he learned from me, because I mean, he's a man with just brothers and their dad and their mom. The more I was like, oh, we need this, and he would work harder to do that. He would get a second job, or he would do this because he's inspired by the need and the want for his wife and his family and his children. So I think maybe I just took the question a whole nother way. But when I talked to my mom about it, I was like, wow, we inspire them to get all these great things. They're just going to live. If they're just happy living in an apartment or living in a regular house, they're not going to do all that stuff because they're just basic. It's us who inspire them to get all these nicer things and the stuff that women are asking for now. Like, I want him to have all of this. You have to inspire him. So maybe I'm not answering this question the right way, but to me, listening to my mom and kind of reviewing this question, I'm like, we have to inspire these men. And a lot of people, for example, and let me just put it this way. I know most people say, Kevin would say, modern women, if you're a little older, you might want to find a man that's already got some of this. But if you're young, a young woman, I would say if you're marrying young, you inspire him to build you up to that, or build you up to be that housewife or whatever you want. So I hope all that makes sense. But to answer that question, I hope I didn't go too far off. So I'll leave it there.
No problem at all. I'm going to bring Hermisha up, and I will just say that's why we have the different backgrounds here. I don't know if there's any one right answer, but we share from our lived experience and our perspective. So thank you for that, Lisa. All right, so Hermisha, I'm coming to you, and I see a lot in the chat about this gumbo. But the question was, should men date women on the potential of being a wife with no experience?
Oh, this is such a good question. I would say it really depends on the man. It really depends on the type of man I would parse out. You know, a man of value, a man who's built himself, or high value men. I mean, men have value, right? And this wasn't Kevin's term, high value men. But a man who's built himself, he's not going to take that risk to date to marry you on the potential you're going to do what you're supposed to do as a wife. That would be a huge risk for him. That's not to say that you can't learn, which is why we're here. And that's not to say that you can't build with the man, but it depends on the type of the man. You know, and so that I think that's an important point. You know, I do think that if you are like many of us, we had to learn how to be wives. I had to learn, you know, and being married for 10 years, you know, I have a lot of experience. So if I ever remarry, he's not going to be marrying me off potential. I come with receipts. So men want to know you got receipts, but can we just say it and call it? Well, do you got receipts? Got receipts. Here's the thing. Let's break it down. You don't want to marry him on the potential that he got a job, that he can keep a job, of the potential he can keep the lights on. What, Kevin? You want to be like this? Turn the lights off. Or you want to keep the lights on? No, you want to know he's going to provide, not potentially provide. He wants to know that you're going to keep your body up, not potentially keep it up. So that's why fitness, your femininity is important. If you're not stewarding that now, you are showing receipts that you're not disciplined. So I would say, show the receipts so that he can know what he buying up front, and y'all can just lay it out and make the best deal possible. The lights got me off.
See what happens when we don't have a soundboard, y'all? We just go, this is what we got. I got a business card, but it's a receipt. We're going to go with it. All right, Miss Lucy, I am coming to you. Your turn. The hot seat. The question was, should men date women on the potential of being a wife with no experience?
These are tough questions. You know, I don't remember asking my mom any of that stuff, but I do remember watching my mom do all that stuff. So again, it's important that what we say matches our actions. Once again, I think I said that before. And I have on my notes, I have, how does the man know that you will follow through with the potential? Because you can say a lot of beautiful things, but how does he know that those things are going to come through? And what I wrote was, the only way to prove to him is by showing you are, and this goes back to Hermesia's point, that you are responsible with how you treat your body, you're fit, your womb, no children outside of marriage, your financial health. Do you have extensive bad debt because of impulsive monetary decisions? So those are things that as you're dating the potential husband, he's going to start seeing some of those different behaviors. And if you show that you can follow through with a lot of those things, he will say, yeah, that's wife material. So I'm not sure if that's the right answer, but I think that that's how I took it.
Again, your answer is the right answer. And ladies, especially young ladies, I hope you are seeing our heart that even as we age, we're still working every day to be the best version of ourselves. Kevin said that. You're going to have to reinvent yourself over and over. We have bumped our head. We have skinned our knees. Some of us have been married. Some of us come from, divorce, but we can still get better. So as long as you are trying that, what did Kevin always used to say, approaching the conversations with that good faith effort, a man is going to notice that. All right. Alejandra says, I love the club. We love you too, sweetheart, de Colombia. So we're going to move on to number 3 in our agenda. I saw your question, Angelo Cherry Music. If you all have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm going to star them. We've got 2 more, and then we'll discuss you all's questions. All right. So the next question in our agenda is it realistic for modern women to be okay with getting 80% of what they want? And if I had AB soundboard, I would say yes, absolutely. I am very passionate about this one, so I'm going to try and hold it together. Mickey says I need the eucalyptus on my wife resume. Wife resume. I got it. My breathe deep. I'm gonna put some on and breathe deep, ladies. This whole expectation that a man who can change your life, as Kevin used to say, has to have every box on your list checked, or you throw him out the window with the bathwater, is foolishness. I promise you. Ladies, I have said it time and time again. At 47, I remember being 20, 25, 30. I had energy for days. I thought I could change the world. It was my way or the highway. That is not something that you can sustain. And believe me, take it from an older woman, that is not something that you want to sustain. How many times did we hear Kevin say, find somebody, get on down the path, make a deal, and get on down the path, right? And the other thing that he said in this episode that really struck me, a lot of times as modern women, and I raise my hand on this, the way we think is selfish. We don't realize it. We just think, oh, I want this and I want that. That is entirely selfish because it completely is oblivious to the fact, do you think this man is getting everything that he wants? Or is he settling for you? Remember, anytime Kevin would ask these women, you know, well, what does the man get? Or what do you bring to the table? It was just the slow blink and the fast blink all at the same time. We hadn't even thought about that. And so I would admonish all of us to remember this is a relationship. Lucy talked about it. We are equally valued, but we are not equal. We complement each other. So, yes, absolutely. Ladies, if you got a man that gives you 80% of what you want, you better skip to my loo, get on down the path. And what did Kevin say? Get ready to, what is it, Bengay on the knee? And y'all remember that because we're all going to age. And if you can work with someone, and what did he say? They're crazy, doesn't make you crazy. You have won. So that's it from Auntie Maggie. All right. So Lisa has stepped away. We'll change the order really quick. Hermisha, I'm going to come to you. The question is it realistic for modern women to be okay with getting 80% of what they want?
It absolutely is. You know, I was talking to a really good friend today, and he brought up a very good perspective. And Kevin talked about this as well. And it's a perspective that we have to keep at the forefront of our minds as women. I mean, 90% of us as women want the top 10% of men. 90% of us as women want the top 10% of men. And the top 10% of men have access to 90% of women. So, on one hand, just because the man entertains you, just because the man that's in the top 10% entertains you, doesn't mean that you rate him. Because winning, Kevin would say winning means they're, winning equals marriages. But just to the point of the numbers, it's the numbers don't lie. So if you're the woman, and a lot of us as women, we're hypergamous, and Kevin talks about that. But we also have to be realistic. If all of us want a certain type of guy, we're gonna have to be able to make the best deal possible, and that requires being realistic. That requires being realistic about whatever standard you might have. That requires rightly evaluating yourself and coming with this as a place of humility, of not what I didn't get, but what did I get? How was I blessed? Right? Because sometimes we can come from a place of lack of, well, I didn't get this. Oh, I just lost. No, what did you get? You have a man. You have a good man. First of all, number one, you got a man. Can we just start there? You got a good man. You may not have Chanel or what's out there. I don't know. Hermes. I only know that because it's part of my name. What's out there, y'all? I don't have it. Louis Vuitton. You got a man that loves and cares for you, that provides and protects you. Why isn't that enough? You know, I married, when I was married, my ex-husband was an average man, and I was, we didn't work out, but I was in it. I was in it 100%, you know? So I don't feel like I got less than, is what I'm trying to say, y'all. Um, and I think we got to look at it like that, more of like looking at the innate value of a man, right? I don't know, I'm just stuck on, I just need a man. How about that? I keep saying man. Can we just bring the value of a man and a covering and that just being enough? That's all I'm trying to say. So I would say if you got a man, you got a good one, that should be enough. At the end of the day, the lifestyle, the other stuff, that's extra. Can we start with, does that man love you with his whole being? Does that man willing to lay his life down on you for you? Is that man uh, a good father? Just can we just get back to the basics? Not whether, well, can I get a nanny? Uh, can I have Chanel? That's extra peripheral stuff. And first of all, if you're a housewife, why you need a nanny? I ran my home. I'm not ranting. I'm just telling you from experience. I was a housewife. I ran my home. I homeschooled and I worked. I didn't have no nanny. I did being a housewife. Side note, and Lisa can co-sign this. That's work. You ain't just gonna be sitting there just do 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 do. Okay. So I would just say, can we just get back to the basics and recognize that the fact that you have a man and a good one that's a provider, a leader, all the things, that should just be enough. And I was just meditating on that today and I thought I'd share that.
I am so glad you shared. And I am rocking Old Navy Spring Line 2020. We don't need that stuff, y'all, but I'm coming to you, Lou Casely. It is your turn. The question is it realistic for modern women to be okay with getting 80% of what they want?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm not understanding how a lot of these women have these lists of what they want on a man, and then they don't expect the man to have some requirements from them. So that's to start with. I'm not understanding where these scrolled long lists of what these women want from a man come, and it's not in the world where they want to be equal. They don't want to be equally requested for the same list from the man. So the double standard is there from the get-go. um, I think, yeah, 80% is much more than enough. And with the modern women as they are right now, that's a lot to take on. I think that at this point, women are not satisfied with having a husband that comes home, that provides you with a home, that takes care of most of the bills. They want that and more, and they don't want to work at home. So they're like, modern women have been conditioned to want it all without having to give back. And that to me is it's really it's it's I can't relate to that mindset, because again, it's a relationship. You are supposed to give and take, and willingly, not because you have to, because you love each other. So yeah, 80% is more than enough at this point.
I love it. I think we struck a nerve, y'all, with the ladies, with the chat. I heard Hermisha talking about that glass is over halfway full. Sit down somewhere. I need a man. The chat is going off. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. All right, you all. So we have one last question, and then we are going to pull up your comments. I've been starring them. Wait, did we go out of order? Lisa, did I get you? I am so sorry. You dropped
Yeah,
down.
okay.
Okay. So Lisa, let me come back to you before we do the last question. Is it realistic for modern women to be okay with getting 80% of what they want?
It is absolutely realistic. Like I told y'all, I have modern women tendencies. And when I met my husband, I had a list and I was like, are you married? Do you have kids? Are you over, I think I asked him, are you 25? But I was like, how old are you? And just a bunch of stuff. And he answered everything okay. He told me what I wanted to hear a little bit. He kind of exaggerated on the age part. But if I would have just went by that list or whatever I had, trying to get that 100%, then I'd be where I'm at now with living with my parents or living with a dog or whatever. I don't know. But I'm just, I'll admit I was one of those women who, even though I knew I had been raised differently, I kind of had that modern woman tendency. And I was like, I got this list too. But luckily I had a father who was like, that's a good man. That's what you need. And like I've told y'all before, but I had a list, and I'm kind of, I was like, yeah, that question does pertain to me. So I understand, but you're missing out. And I think a lot of modern women and women of today on that list is all that other stuff we're talking about, that y'all, the job profession and all that. My list was back in 2003, quite different, but compared to what people are asking for now. But my point is, you're missing out, and 80% is a hell of a lot better than 0. So I'm gonna leave it there.
And that's one way that the math is mathing. But before we move on, y'all, I got to shout out a Cash App. Thane. $250. And he says, for the lovely Luke Hazley showing up tonight. Thane, you always make me blush. I am so incredibly gracious every time you jump off of the moon, out of the bushes, wherever you are hiding, and then you pop up and support us so heavily. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I think we'll have to keep Luke Hazley in our back pocket because she blends in with us so well. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled. All right, so we're going to go to the last question, and I did drop the link in the chat. We're going to take one last lap around, and then if you all want to ask your questions, or if you want to come up on the screen and tell us what you thought about this episode, or put us on the hot seat, ask us questions from a former, current, and future wife perspective. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. All right, so the last question on our agenda is, in this episode, was there any guest who interested you, gave you concern, or gave you advice? And again, I'm going to say yes, absolutely. Y'all. There was a woman. She was 31. I'm going to see if I can share really quickly. I'm not going to play anything, but I'm just going to show you all this woman with the hound's tooth. All right. So this woman in this episode, some of you all might remember her. She's 31 years old, and she called into Kevin's show. All right. What struck me about this young woman, never married, no children. She was a Southern girl. I believe she was from Alabama, and she is an attorney. Warning. I know. You all know Kevin had his list of things to look out for, and it doesn't mean it's the end of the road. It just means that we're going to have to overperform in certain areas if we've got some strikes against us. And what struck me about this woman was her apathy. Y'all, it was painful to watch. And as a boy mom, I kind of had that conviction like, how dare you? So if you didn't see it, she called in, and her whole attitude was like, yeah, I guess I want to get married. Can you give me any advice? And Kevin was like, what did your mom teach you about marriage? Well, first of all, were your parents together? Yeah. What did your mom teach you about marriage? I don't know. Why do you want to get married? I guess I'm about that age. When was your last relationship? 2015. Y'all, it was painful to watch. And what struck me about this woman, another woman that unfortunately for her had put career first because she was an attorney, and now it was almost like she was just like, well, everybody says I'm supposed to do this. There was no conviction. There was no passion. There was no, I want a family. I want to be a support system. I don't want to buy a dog and die alone. She was just like, well, I guess I'm supposed to do this. And I had a little bit of indignation because as a boy mom, I feel very strongly that men, all men, should have the full human experience. And ladies, if you're not 100% team your man, like Hermisha said, I need a man. Pick me. I want a man. I don't want to be out here outside alone. If you can't say that with conviction and know why this is important to you, go figure it out. Leave that man alone. He deserves someone. After a man has built himself, after a man has taken those 10 years to eat you know what, and grind and fail and come back, and now he's ready to take on the responsibility of a family and carry your burden on his back until death do us part, you better come better than that, because that was unacceptable. So getting a little hot, y'all, sorry, but that was the guest that did it for me. Miss Attorney, if you're watching, we would love to have you back. Hopefully, you have a good ending to your story. All right. So, Lisa, I'm going to come around to you. The question is, in this episode, was there any guest who interested you, gave you concern, or gave you advice?
The guests that interest me most, and this is pretty much all of Kevin's shows, are the young ladies that get it, or like they see the light and they're like, that's the ones I want to hear back from too. Um, there was a few at the beginning, I believe, of the episode that were like, I can't believe she said that. Those are the ones. That's what I do. What I'm doing. Why I'm here with this show is because I'm wanting to help support young ladies and women out there like that. The ones that are getting it, are like, oh my God, thank you, Kevin, and this advice is great, or this is what I needed, or that's what brings me here, and that's what I like to see. So anytime I hear someone that can see how that can help in getting them the where they want to be, and finding someone, or getting the relationship they're looking for, that's what motivates me and keeps me wanting to come back every week and talk and share. And so those are the ones for me.
Thank you so much, Hermisha. I'm coming to you, but ladies, Thane again, $300. I have no words. And he says, for snackaroos for the wives. So I am so excited to disperse this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all, we're not monetized yet, but y'all come through and you support us. You don't even have to be here. We started this community in 2021 because we wanted to get better. And so many times people would say, more people need to hear this message. And for whatever reason, we were all like, no, because we didn't want to be out here on the internet for people to call us pick-me's, ask us what year in the past are we from. My latest dig was, who thinks that way, Rosa Parks? To me. So we continue to do the work because we believe in this so much, no matter what comes our way. And the men in this community, you all protect us, you all provide for us, you all shelter us. You keep this a safe space for us to continue that message, because we do believe in traditional roles and relationships. So Thane, thank you. And everyone, y'all already started, but for me, we don't ask, but would you please put Thane Mithra in the chat? Tonight, he's been so incredibly generous. And ladies, it's coming your way. All right. Forgive me. Hermisha, I am coming to you. The question was, in this episode, was there any guest who interested you, gave you concern, or gave you advice?
Yeah, thank you so much, Thane. And thank you to Miki. Said I was on fire. Thank you so much for the Cash App. Let's see. In this episode, and it's a common theme when Kevin would ask about the fitness piece. And I always thought it was interesting. They all seem to have recently got personal trainers, and they start the process that day or the day before, and they were kind of working on it in that moment. So he would say, well, how long you been working on this? And I just got it about 3 days ago, And so what he was getting at, and what I was noticing in that episode is that, Men look at that in terms of, like, I think I mentioned earlier, the stewardship of our bodies and that wife readiness, because they want to know, what they're signing up for. And if you're not sort of bringing those receipts that, look, I've been doing this for longer than 3 days. I've been doing this. This has become a habit. This has become consistent for me, and it's for me. So I would say that was something that stood out with the young woman. I forget her name, but she was talking about that, and to the point. I mean, the fitness, femininity, and the cooperation, like I think I might have mentioned before, that's the basics, y'all. That just kind of gets you in the door, right? And the reality is 80% of us are overweight, and we get passed over on that alone many times. And whether you want a high value man, or if you just want a good man, they want you to take care of your body. That's just what it is. They want to enjoy your body. It's a playground. Yes, it's a playground. Your husband should be able to enjoy your body. And so anyway, that's very important. So that's something that stood out to me, and that's what I would say on that.
Whew. All right, so Hermisha has taken off her church hat and I'm fanning myself with it. We're going to come over to Miss Lucy for the last question before we open up to you all. Lucy, in this episode, was there any guest who interested you, gave you concern, or gave you advice?
First of all, thank you, Thane, for your generous donations. Thank you, the men that are supporting this effort. We couldn't do it without you. And the ladies supporting this group as well. Amazing. Thank you all for such wonderful support that you're giving. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the Passport Bros has gone mainstream. I think earlier today I shared a content creator. She's got about 1.7 million followers, and she started talking about the Passport Bros effort. And that is something that, as an American woman, I would be on the lookout, because it seems to me that men are going outside of the country to find what they can't find here in the United States. So one of the things that I found particularly interesting about the attorney that you mentioned, Maggie, was, yes, the apathy. And I was thinking, if I was a man dating this woman on my first date, would she behave that way? Like, I'm here just because I got to do it. Or are you the cheerleader? Are you that one feminine woman that wants to be there and get to know the person and just be there just because you're enjoying the evening? So that was the apathy part, just struck something in me. And again, I like to put myself in other people's shoes. And I was thinking, as a man, if I saw a woman just sitting there, because I'm doing you a favor, I'm here. Do I want to continue maybe on a second date of someone that really doesn't show that much interest for me? So yes, Maggie, I caught that on that one smart woman, beautiful woman, but she didn't seem like she wanted to be part of a relationship. So if you don't show that energy for somebody, what do you think it's going to mirror? You think you're going to get that same energy back? And then she probably goes back and says, yeah, this man was awful, but did you take any part on that date going the wrong way? So yeah, that was one that caught my attention.
All right, absolutely. And Lisa, I don't think I've come to you on this last one yet. Okay, I did? Okay, so did we cover everything? All right. Sometimes I get a little bit out of order. All right, everyone, it is your turn now. Yes, I see you all in the comments. I'm going to go back through If you have a question for any of the wives, myself, Lisa, Hermisha, Luke Hazley, if you have a comment about this episode, maybe you watched it the first time, maybe you rewatched it when we posted here. If you have any, feedback for the topic or for us, we're definitely here. I'll drop the link again, and I'm going to go through what I have starred, and we would love to hear from you all. Christopher Williams, I've seen this one a couple times. He's asking about a wives club book. I hadn't thought about that. I don't have plans for a book, but you know what? Nothing is off the table. Anything is possible. But I hear you loud and clear. I don't have a book. I'll ask the other ladies. Is anybody a published author here, or does anybody have any thoughts? Hermisha's got a book. Tell us about your book.
Yes, I actually published an ebook. It's about radical self-compassion. So it's just an ebook, but I am in the process of writing a book.
You know what? I have a cookbook. I totally forgot. Because you do need a cookbook. And thank you, Hermisha. I also have a cookbook. It's a digital download. If y'all don't know, I'm Maggie, the substitute teacher, and I have a cooking channel. And my cookbook has some of my subscribers' favorite recipes. You can read it, but it's also interactive because there's a video. You can watch me make it. So if you don't know how to cook, I do have a cookbook. So thank you for that. Okay, let us see. Let me go back up to the top. Yes, I remember. Y'all, I'm old. I'm old. Okay, and Quiet Storm is supposed to. Okay, y'all. It's a lot, all right? I did see a question from Angelo Cherry Music. Okay, so I want to bring this one up. And Angelo, I believe you came up with us last week. So if you want to come chat with us again, you can. But ladies, we'll take a quick lap around here. So Angelo Cherry is asking about experience. So I think this takes us back to our question number 2. Should men date women on the potential of being a wife with no experience? And it looks like he has a clarifying question here. Is experience meaning to say your training and your upbringing? So I will take a stab at this one, and then we'll take a lap around, and you all can think of how you would answer this. So let me just review the question. Should men date a woman on the potential of being a wife with no experience? Now, if you're married for the first time, which all of us have been, hopefully you stay married, you didn't have wife experience, but you can be moving like a wife. And that's one of the first things that I talked about. First of all, acknowledging that as modern women, because of the society that we live in, it's not your fault, but the wife role that Hermisha talked about is not promoted in our culture. So you're going to have to be that salmon swimming upstream to seek it out and to find it. Yes, you can get trained for this. There are programs that you can seek out. You all, it used to be quite common back in the day, whether it was finishing school or whatever, different cultures had different kind of coming of age training for young ladies, because when a man would marry you, he needed you to be able to run a well-functioning home and know how to carry yourself on day one. It's too risky for a man to make that investment in you on the chance that maybe you'll feel like it, maybe you won't. So if you had the benefit of having a traditional nuclear family like I did, I grew up, and I think, I can't remember if it was Lucy, or I think Lucy said, our moms taught us so much without saying anything at all. Lisa has spoken about this too in other episodes. I have vivid memories of, we come home from school as kids and we're running through the house and, we want snacks and all that. And I remember my mom would always have my dad's food ready. He had his seat at the table. When he came in, we knew not to bother him. He would get out of his work clothes. He would go refresh himself. He would come down. He would sit down and have dinner in peace. And then when he was done, I would clear the table. I would serve my dad. I would take his plate. I would do the dishes. And then in the evening, Dad, that's just how I was raised. She didn't tell me anything, but she showed me so much. So I know when my man comes to the door, before he comes, I anticipate, what have you eaten today? I'm always cooking for him and making a plate for him to go because he works so hard. These are just the kind of things that if you didn't get it growing up, yes, find a woman in a relationship that you admire and ask her. It's okay if you don't know. So that's how I would answer this experience question. But Lisa, I'm going to come to you. What would you say to Angela about if a woman doesn't have experience? How would you define that? Is just that her training and her upbringing?
Yeah, because I know a lot of people say they just grew up with their mom or dad, or they didn't have the nuclear family setup, or they didn't have the example, or what have you. So, to answer that question, I'm rooting for all the women. So I'm like, I want y'all to find people. So I say, guys, give you grace, but as far as getting the experience, if you seek it out, if you look for the training, or look for join groups like ours, or anything you can do to put yourself ahead of the game. Because I think what Kevin was telling the other ladies is, you know when the young ladies would come on and say, yeah, I'm watching your show, Kevin, I'm trying, I'm doing the work, I'm trying. He's like, yeah, you're setting yourself up. So all them girls, like if you're at work or whatever, there's 10 girls who are being super modern, you're stepping away from them, you're getting ahead. So I hope that's what we're providing in helping those who want that. So um, I say there that what was the question? that helps you get that information so you can be the wife ready if you didn't have the training or the background or whatnot. So that's my answer to that.
All right, fantastic. So, Hermisha, I'm coming to you. How would you answer or clarify for Angelo Cherry when we talk about a wife having experience or no experience? Is that her training and her upbringing?
Yes, this is really good. So a lot of us like to run the books, but we need to be able to apply what we know. So I would say this is where the whole concept of the older women teaching the younger, and it's scripture, you all. So I would say we're start at church too. Are there older that is when we talk about the older women teaching the younger? Kevin was talking about the passage in Titus 2. Older women must train younger women to love their husbands and their children, to live wisely and to be pure, to work their homes, to do good and be submissive to their husbands. That's what we're talking about. And so I would say number one, if you come from a faith background, this is where the church is. This is where the women, the older women in the church, in the discipleship piece comes in handy. I know, my growing up in church, I saw those women, and my dad has 6 sisters, and I saw how they were with their husbands, and this is that discipleship piece. So that's what I would say. If for those of you who have a faith-based background, your faith community, uh, and then number two, if you hadn't had that, then there's tons of information. I mean, we're here. There's somebody mentioned wife school. There's so many things out there, you all. So I would say utilize the resources and just be willing to learn and to figure it out, because the information's there on many, many levels.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Hermisha. And Lucy, I'm coming to you. So the question from Angelo, I'll pull it up again, is basically saying, when we talk about a wife having experience, is that her training and her upbringing, or how would you clarify that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think it would be both. And if you don't get exposed to that information, to that type of behavior or environment, I think first is there's a lot of books and a lot of information online that you can find and ask those questions. How do I become a good wife, and see what happens? There's now, I don't know if it's good or bad. AI, you can go into Chat GPT and say, how do I become a good wife? And then it's going to bring down a bunch of different topics and answers for that. And also reach out to those married women that have good relationships, good marriages, and ask those questions. Again, these questions that Kevin Samuels used to ask, those are great questions. They're hard because I never asked those questions again, but I was exposed to that. But you can ask those married women those same questions. How did you find your husband? What did you do for your husband um, to maybe see you as a potential wife? Did you do things together? Did you go out together? Did you go, I don't know, for walks together to get to know each other? So I think that one is there's a lot of information in with our technological uh, um, uh, modernity that we have that you can find and watch, observe which are what are the women and the marriages that you see that look good to you? What are your marriage goals that you look into two people that have been together? Is that what you want? Ask questions. Ask because they're probably going to tell you marriage is not easy. You have to work at it. But once you find your person and you have committed to each other for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, to death do us part, that's when you know that they're there for the long run. And those are the people that you need to speak to.
Thank you so much. Thane, you are trying to break my face again. He has come through with another $300. He says, for Maggie from the bushes. We have a little inside joke here, but first let me say thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Incredibly generous. You all don't even have to be here week after week. I am so incredibly grateful. There's this joke, that Thane is always watching. And I'm like, I don't know if he's watching from the clouds or he's watching from the moon. And he says, no, he's watching from the bushes, hunting antelope. So, ladies, remember the men that you want, they're always watching. And we have not seen Thane in the chat. So, that's just an example that the way we move, the men that you want, or the men that know the men that you want, are always watching. I'll just say it again, Thane. I'm so grateful. I'm so embarrassed and grateful. Thank you. All right. So we did have another question. I want to take another lap around, try to keep it together. Yes, I know. Good grief. Okay, the question about wife school, right? So we saw, I wanted to talk about this and give my perspective and then let the ladies talk as well. But quickly, I don't want to mispronounce your name. I'll say Eshet. You have a blog with recipes. Does that count? It's a start. It's something. Literally, my cookbook on my channel, I put a poll out. I said, what are y'all's favorite recipes? The viewers answered it, and I put them together in a cookbook. I think the essence of the question was Kevin basically saying, do you, one, know how to cook, and are you able to either teach what you've learned? Do you come from the type of family where, like what Hermisha said, that wife behavior is valued enough? My mom standing over me and telling me, no, Maggie, do this. That's how I was raised. I'm a boy mom, so I don't have daughters, but hopefully one day I'll be a mother-in-law or a grandmother and a grandmother, and I'll be able to share what I've learned. So I think it's more about, do you value that type of tradition that is so prevalent in other cultures? One reason why a lot of brothers are, opting to fly away. The question about wife school. So you're going to hear, where was this question? Would you consider, just another mark says, would you all consider a finishing school or a wife school for modern women who want to be a wife but have no long-term relationship experience with men? I will say yes, but you can absolutely invest in yourself. I have been very transparent with you all. I've done a lot of work. For me personally, I have invested thousands. And the reason why, not that that's important, but my man is on the VP track. And I remember, when I when we got together and he was telling me about some of his goals, because I'm listening and paying attention, not just, whatever I want to do. And he said he wanted to be, one of the black VPs in Atlanta. And I'm thinking to myself, I can be kind of silly, I can be a little quirky. I want to get better so that I can represent him well. So I started investing in etiquette classes, elegance. I wanted to soften my speech, promote my femininity. Being a boy mom, working in corporate, a lot of it had just kind of come on me, and I didn't even know that I shout when I speak. So the point I'm making is yes, absolutely. Whatever your area of improvement is, there's a book for that. There's a free YouTube video for that. There's a course for that. Yes, there's a class for that. So I encourage all of it. The only thing I would say is, even if you get a certificate at the end, the work never ends. It's not like you're going to be able to say, I took the test and I got 100, I'm ready. All of us in relationships still sometimes get it wrong, but realizing that, like Lisa talked about, that self-awareness and getting back out there and getting better every day for yourself and for your man, I think that's where the gold comes from. So that's my take on it. Lisa, I'm going to come to you. The question is, would you suggest a finishing school or a wife school for women who want to be a wife but have no long-term relationship experience with men?
Yeah, I would suggest that if you feel you need it, if you can't find it, well, if you feel you need it, yeah. I'm not sure how long. I don't know. Wife school is kind of new to me, but if that's out there for people, I say go for it. If it's, but it sounds so new. I just don't really know what all would it include. But whatever you need to make yourself more aware and present yourself in a way that will help you get the outcome you want. So yeah, I would suggest doing whatever it takes.
All right. And since I spoke on the cookbook, before we move over to Hermisha, did you have anything you wanted to add about the cookbook, Lisa? There was a question about if I have a recipe blog, does that count?
A question about a cookbook?
Yes. I just didn't know if you had, because I spoke on the cookbook. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? If not, that's fine. I just wanted to check while you're.
I'm good.
Okay.
No.
All right, Hermisha, I am coming to you. Would you suggest finishing school or wife school for women who want to be a wife but have no long-term relationship experience with men?
I like the concept. I think that, you got to look at these schools. Everybody's throwing up a wife school these days, though. I would look at the content and the experience of the teacher and all the things. But I do like the concept. I love also to the point of what Maggie was talking about, etiquette classes. There's classes on fine dining protocols, utensils, how to set a table, things I've read upon and I kind of apply. I didn't know the idea of, I think I'm still learning, but I think it's this fishbowl. You dip your hand in the, I think it's called the fishbowl right before, like you clean your hands before the last dish or the last dessert. And my daughters, we had a chance to do that. So we'll practice things like that. So I like the concept of the whole school, but there's courses in your area, etiquette courses, fine dining, how to set a table, how to host, proper etiquette and invitations, time frames or RSVPs, things like that. That's going to come in handy, especially when you have to host these sort of dinners for executives, and you're connecting with the wives of these executives. That's a skill. That is a skill, because that's how those men make deals. And guess what? When the women can connect with the women of the wives of the husbands who have power, and you can connect your husband to her husband, it's a valuable skill. So yes to wife school, if there's applicable credentials of those who's teaching it, but also yes to different courses where you can model that and apply it and practice it daily.
All right. Did you want to add anything about the cookbook since I spoke to that, Hermisha, or was that all?
Yeah, get a cookbook. and practice recipes, practice, practice those things. Somebody asked me about the book I wrote. It was called The Healing Power of Radical Self-Compassion. It can be found on my website at hermishagreen.com.
All right, fantastic. All right, Lucy, I am coming to you. We want to know, what do you think about, you pull up the question, would you suggest a finishing school or a wife school for women who want to be a wife but have no long-term relationship experience with men?
I would say absolutely. I would think of finishing school where they teach you, when you're taught elegance and etiquette as an individual first, and then you can use that once you meet the person that you want to spend your life with. And again, remember, men are watching. So they're going to be watching your elegance and your etiquette when you're behaving in different areas in the public. And it doesn't hurt. I think that you can learn to be elegant anytime, whether you are single, young. It's great to start them young because then it's going to come naturally once you're older. But anytime, it's a great idea to take on those lessons if you want to become a wife. I don't know if there are wife schools. I'm not really aware of any wife schools. I do know that there's a lot of talk in social media about people creating wife schools, um, even though they don't have that wife experience. But that's something different. But it would be a good idea to maybe think about having a wife school, which is probably something like home economic, where you are taught how to sew, how to cook, how to do home things, which is no longer appreciated, and it's for sure necessary and important to have if you want to be a wife and a mother.
All right, fantastic. Well, we will take one last laugh, and he has come out of the bushes, and I believe this was going to say men are always watching. Yes, you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Thane. Oh, goodness. I did want to touch on one more part of Mark's question because I responded to some of it, but I want to talk about this relationship experience, and then we will start to wrap. One of the things that Kevin always used to ask, and he was like surgical in his approach, and I love that. I love a repetitive process. And he would ask them, were your parents married? What's the longest relationship you had? When did it end? All of these questions, right? Excuse me. And one of the questions that he would ask, or one of the reasons he would ask those questions, is because he would always get to this point that said, like our favorite houndstooth attorney who hadn't had a relationship since 2015, what have you been doing? Either you prioritize career, or maybe you had an extended hot girl summer, but either way, you haven't prioritized relationships. And I wanted to talk about this part. When you don't have relationship experience with men, ladies, it matters. Not only because we have the benefit of youth and beauty when we're younger. We just don't have that leverage as we age, right? So making those kind of demands, it's just going to be harder as you age. But I would offer, I don't think there's any reason to have a hot girl summer because it delays the time that you have to practice being in a relationship with a man. Even if the relationship ends, I'm a divorcee. I absolutely loved being married. I know how it is to work together, to problem solve, to raise children together. It's not my way or the highway. There's so much that you get in being in relationship that's valuable to you. So I would just offer that part. If you're in your 30s or 40s, and we had heard some of these women call in and say they hadn't had a real relationship in 10 or 20 years, it's going to put you really behind the 8 ball, because now when you have a man who's going to expect you to come along his program, you're going to be asking questions every time. What are we doing? It's going to slow him down. And the man that you want is not going to take that on. So I just wanted to offer that there's really no experience for relationships besides being in one? Because you can watch other people do it, but until you're in one of your own, you don't really know until you know. All right, so Lisa, I'll ask you about that one. What would you say about a woman who doesn't have any relationship experience? What should she do?
No relationship experience. I feel like I'm one of those women who didn't have a lot of relationship experience prior to being in a relationship with my husband for 17. Well, it's been 20 years now, but um, I think having no relationship experience is good. Um, I um, the little bit of relationship experience I had, I think if it was experience, it was like 3 months at a time, and I think the best experience I had was just the long term one. So the little three or how long, because he was like, don't waste. I was like, when Kevin says, why are you wasting your time a year or 2 years or 5 years with somebody that didn't work out? I do remember younger for me, I didn't waste my time. If you weren't um, worthy to me or whatever, I didn't really, whatever, you did something wrong and I'm done with you. That's what I thought. So I kind of appreciate that now because I have a lot of friends who wasted a lot of good years with the wrong guy. So it was kind of a double edged sword in a way. From when you think about it, based on something I was talking about earlier, but either way, I don't think experience is a great thing for a young person anyway. And I was young when I got married. But if you have experience, I would just use that experience as to know what didn't work. If that experience, were you the problem or were you like the constant in the multiple relationships or whatever? Just use that experience moving forward to do things in a different way or better. So that's what I have for that.
Thank you so much. All right, great perspective. Hermisha, I'm coming to you. What do you say for a woman who doesn't really have relationship experience?
Well, I think that number one, that's a red flag in a sense that that means you're not building up your social skills. And Kevin talked about the power of emotional intelligence and just being able to have relationship skills, and that can just be being able to talk to people, connect with people, and practice those skills and that exercise that muscle on that end. And then you can transfer that to a certain degree in a relationship or a romantic relationship. So I would say, if you struggle with social skills or communication skills, that's also some training so that you can apply that in an actual romantic relationship. So we want to exercise those EQ skills because that's another thing that kind of hinders a lot of women. Like the woman who, I mean, she we know how to get degrees, we know how to study, we know how to do all those things, but let's study to show ourselves approved as a wife and build those social skills and to do those things necessary to be able to communicate effectively, solve problems, all those things. So I would say to that point,
All right, Luke Casely, I am going to come to you. Princess says you have a few hot girl summers left. Okay, well, in this community, we believe in marriage and traditional relationships, but have fun. All right, Luke Casely, I am going to come to you. What would you say for a woman who doesn't have real relationship experience? What would you advise her?
I have to agree with Lisa when she said that when a woman is young, between her 20s and 25, 26, 27, I think, it's okay not to have that much relationship experience. Because we got to remember, men want us as pure as possible. So if you've had experiences out there, and he takes you to a special place that he thinks that you're gonna like, and you say, my, so and so took me here, so yeah, it's nice, but so it makes a difference. So the younger you are, I think the less experience is okay. Now if you are mid 30s plus and you haven't had a stable relationship, that's a red flag. What is it that's not keeping you in a steady relationship for a while? Are you going from relationship to a different relationship every 2 years? Why is that? Are you combative? Are there any other issues, mental health or relationship based issues that you haven't been able to solidify a relationship for a long period of time? So I think it depends. If you're young, I would say um, it's okay not to have that much relationship experience, because you're thinking that the one man that you're going to date, the first, second, third, that man is going to say whether he's going to want you as a wife when you're young. The older you get, it's going to be a little strange, because men are going to start asking, what has happened with long-term relationships.
All right, some great questions and some great feedback. We are going to take our last lap and give our final thoughts. Thank you all so much for another wonderful episode. I did see a couple other comments in there. No to the matchmaker program, but just like the book, anything is possible. So I guess not yet. You guys can let us know. We're still getting our legs up underneath us. And Maggie says we need a wives club event. I'm open to suggestions. I always say, you let us know what you want to do. I've had a couple on my channel, but I'm definitely open. So let us know what you all would like to do, and we'll definitely consider everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, in closing out here, this episode, just like all of Kevin's episode, was so power packed with so many good points. But, ladies, being wife ready is a thing, okay? Just because you're a woman, coming to the table just as you are is not enough. So, that's the first thing. And I agree with what the lady said. I'm a woman of a particular age, I'm 47. So, it would be very odd if I just showed up and said, no, I have no relationship experience, but I've had 2 long-term relationships. I met my ex-husband when I was 18. He was my college boyfriend. We married. We had that starter IKEA marriage. So like Lisa said, you don't need a lot of casual experiences if one day you want to be a wife. And I just come from the heart of, when you're in your 20s, 40 seems really far away. Believe me, I was there. But listen, ladies, when you're in your 40s, 60 is just like that. And I always remember Kevin asking, what do you want life to look like in your 50s? What do you want life to look like in your 60s? And I'm so glad that I prioritize relationship with all the other accolades and being a mom and all the other stuff that I do. The relationship is the priority. And this is allowing me to move into my golden years with so much joy and hope that, I'll get a second chance, maybe. So, thank you all again. Lisa, I'm going to come to you. What are your final thoughts as we close out?
One thing I used to remember that Kevin used to always talk about, and I would be in the comments like, yes, yes, this is so true. He would say, marriage is hard work and it's boring. And being married for 17 years, I can tell some days are boring and some days are hard work. I've had a week of strep throat, house issues in another place, running back and forth. I am tired and I got allergies. My eyes messing with me. So, but I keep going because I love my family. I love my husband. And that's the work I signed up to do. And I'm happy to do it. I'm tired and everything, but it's work. And sometimes it's boring, driving people to school, picking them up, washing dishes, cleaning the kitchen, whatever, it's boring, but it's work. But I wouldn't want to do it for anybody else than my family. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you. And Hermisha, any final words as we close out about being wife ready as a modern woman?
Yes, a couple of thoughts. I want to clarify something. I said fishbowl. I meant finger bowl. But it looks like a fishbowl. I just remember my girls are like, fishbowl, fishbowl. It's a finger bowl that is served before dinner, and you dip your hands in. It's an etiquette thing. I would say to the women and the ladies, the future wives, I would say that you have to know your value, proposition as a wife. For example, a woman who's never been married, who has no children, brings a different value to a man. A woman who's never been married, who has a child, brings a different value to a man. A woman like myself who has been married, who has had children within her marriage, brings a different value to a man. So, what it really comes down to, ladies, is what's your value proposition? And does your value proposition, is that what that man needs at the end of the day? Is it what he needs? So, we have to do some self-assessment, and that helps us be realistic about the man we qualify for based off of our value proposition. So I just want to leave y'all with that. I hope that's helpful. And one thing I also want to clarify, when I get spicy up here, it's because I really value sexual expression within the marriage bed. So let's want to clarify that, because I think that's beautiful, and women should be very comfortable in their bodies. So when I speak about that, I'm speaking about in the marriage bed. Okay, that's it. Gotta go.
And it wouldn't be a Wives Club theme without me fanning myself after Misha. Lucy, I'm going to come to you as we all blush. Any final thoughts as we close out on this episode of the Wives Club about modern women being wife ready?
I like Tim Peterson's comment where he says, or he or she says, or they say, marriage-minded men start the vetting process as soon as we meet women we see a future with. Absolutely. That is why I don't understand the modern thought, how these women go out on dates with these men, date 1, date 2, date 3, date 4. On date 1, you should already know whether that person has potential to be a husband. And then you decide whether he decides whether he wants to invite you for a second or third date. But you decide when saying yes to the first date, whether that person is worth spending time with. And I think that old age, I'm 56, old age gets easier when you have somebody to love with and you spend the rest of your years together. So treasure and cherish being married to a good man. And, again, marriage is hard, but it's worth when you're with a person that it's worth working with.
Oh my goodness, could not have been better said. And I just want to say, I want to be like Luke Hazley when I grow up. Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to my 50s, you all. But I did see a question. We are going to close out. There was a question about the watch hours. If I missed your comment or I missed your question, I'm sorry. We are going to go ahead and wrap up. The Wives Club is here for you every Friday night, usually 8:30 Eastern time. We always reference a Kevin Samuels video, and then we bring our own life experience here. So thank you all, and thank you, Thane, for the blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so there was a question about the watch hours. For anyone who doesn't know, our channel is not monetized yet. We just started in January, February of this year. In order to be monetized on YouTube, we need 1,000 subscribers. We've blown past that. We're over 1,300, and we need 4,000 watch hours. And I just refreshed my screen. We are at 3,652 watch hours. So we are getting close, y'all. We're not there yet, but we are getting close. Thank you for watching our live streams. Thank you for watching our videos. Thank you for sharing our content. Believe me, we're working behind the scenes. Y'all already know. AV's going to have this whole wife persona thing for us. Y'all are going to see the photographs. It's going to be big when we have our monetization party, but we got a few things that we got to do first before we get there. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to ask. Thank you all for the hand claps. See all the comments. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up. And we will see you all back again next week on another episode of the Wives Club. Thank you all so much for being here. Bye.